has a Transgo shift kit in it. Sometimes, depending on the engine load, it'll chirp the tires on the 1-2 shift. Or it'll just bust them loose. Morning, everybody. Got an interesting little project today. Sounds like Dexter's chasing a squirrel up a tree. So I've been wanting to change the throttle body on the LS Swap Ford Ranger for a while now. It currently has a truck 3-bolt throttle body on a Trailblazer SS intake manifold. This guy here, got from a junkyard for super cheap. And it is currently on a ICT billet adapter plate to go from 3-bolt to 4-bolt. These are only 78mm opening. There's a lot of people out there that will contend that going to the NBSS intake manifold is completely pointless if you're just going to put a 3-bolt throttle body on it. This thing doesn't make that much power, so I don't know if that's really a big deal in my case. But I really don't like running adapter plates on anything that doesn't have to have an adapter plate. So I'm going to try that new Professional Products throttle body. A lot of people like to run the stock throttle bodies, including myself, because they work and they don't make any funny noises or whistling sounds through the IAC circuit. So I tried running this G Plus 92mm throttle body that we got with the Camaro as a spare. And there's about 17 different brands of this throttle body that come out of the same factory. I'm pretty sure even the War throttle bodies are this same throttle body. These things are notorious for whistling. And when I say it whistles, you can hear it probably all the way over there across the cul-de-sac. I could get it to idle, and the only way I could get it to stop whistling is to drop the IAC count all the way down to almost 0. But then the moment you tap the throttle, it starts screaming again. I tried doing a kind of hackish little quick porting job on the IAC circuit, and I even opened up its diameter. In my case, it didn't make any difference. The other problem I had with this guy is I'm pretty sure it's breaking the TPMS sensors because the throttle shaft is too big, so it's putting a bunch of strain on the inner hub of the TPS sensor. So I think this TPS sensor is junk. Now, on to the topic of the video. This is the new Professional Products. They call this a 96mm throttle body. And its claim to fame, I guess you could say, is it has this interesting little gearbox on the side of it that makes the throttle blade open in reverse. So I don't know if I can do this one-handed. Let me get the old camera set up here on the mini tripod. When I first took this out of the box, first of all, the throttle blade was stuck. Once I was able to crack it open, then I went to wide open throttle and it hung at wide open throttle. That's never a comforting feeling. So I ended up loosening the blade screws, and these are staked or crimped because you can't take them out. I mean, you probably could force them out, but I was able to loosen them up just enough to let this throttle blade float, reset it, retorqued it, and now it seems to run perfectly smooth. Got your breather, fresh air supply. The IAC channel is its own design, totally different than the Chinese 92mm throttle bodies. Everything looks good in the IAC. I'm very excited to see what it does. If I put this on and it whistles, it's coming right back off. Onto eBay it will go. Another unique thing about this is it comes with these backing plates that dictate the size of the manifold you're going to put it on. We'll go over the instructions here in a minute. You have to run this. So this one is for 92mm intakes. You can see it's got a little bit of a taper out to it. So that's going to go like that. They give you longer screws. The transition in there looks pretty good. That's what the IAC port looks like. Another interesting feature on this throttle body is it uses an LT1 TPS sensor on this adapter plate for setting the voltage. It says in the instructions to remove this little piece of plastic right here, which will let you get to each screws to tighten the adapter down. What's interesting about this is this has to run in the opposite direction to make the voltage be correct because of the gearbox over here, if that makes sense. So if you had this TPS sensor on there, it wouldn't work because it's backwards. So that'll be interesting to play with and see if we can get the voltages where they need to be. This is the idle set screw right here, and this set screw, not set screw, but adjustment. This adjustment here is to set wide open throttle, which I'm going to leave that right where it's at. I did have to tweak this a tiny little bit to also help it not get stuck at idle. Dexter doesn't like squirrels or crows or cats. I'm probably going to run the IAC valve off of the truck throttle body. This is a Chinese aftermarket one. I tried running this on the G Plus throttle body, and I noticed that the poppet doesn't stick out far enough. It works, but when you would start it with this IAC, it had a horrible startup flare. It would like flare to 2,000 RPMs before it would regain control and bring the idle down. So that's probably going in the garbage can. All right, I think that's enough rambling. This is the adapter plate for a 102mm intake manifold. I forgot to show that. It does come with both. Oh, another thing I noticed. This thing has a massive lip on it. I'm not going to be running any boost. I don't know that it would matter anyways, but I'm going to have to sand this lip off of here, almost entirely off of here, and if there's any hope of me getting my 90-degree intake coupler on there. It is way, way too big. Even with the G Plus, I had to use a screwdriver to walk the boot onto here. So let's go get the truck throttle body taken off, and we'll go from there. This is listed as a cable throttle body for LS2 applications. Obviously, it can be used on other things besides that. Talks about the throttle body adapter plates. We already went over that. Talks about using gaskets, which gaskets to use. I'm using the OEM gasket on the intake manifold, and then their gasket in between the adapter plate and the throttle body. Talks about setting the TPS sensor voltage to 0.5 volts. I usually do 0.4, 0.5. You don't want it any higher than that. Oh, another thing that is very interesting about this throttle body is, since it has this gearbox on here, your throttle actuator cam is now 1.5 inches further outboard from where it should be on a normal throttle body. I'm hoping that I'm going to be able to use this hole right here to just move it over, and that'll be enough to make it not pull at a funny angle. So we'll see how that goes. I should have no problems being able to reuse this cable. In case y'all have never seen one of these, that's what the 3 to 4 bolt adapter plate looks like up front in your intake manifold. Okay, we're ready for the big throttle body already. Okay, the instructions specifically say not to use any sealant on that separator gasket for their own adapter plate. It's not really an adapter plate. I don't know what you would call it. Spacer. Don't see anything in the old intake manifold. Actually, I want to take it back off real quick because I just forgot I want to grind this lip down. So I'm going to go do that real quick and then we'll be back. Alright there, boys and girls, time for a little update. It's been just a bit of a cluster F as usual. Like I always say, anytime you're working on stuff where you're modifying parts and components, don't expect it to go as planned because it just doesn't. We got it bolted up. I did sand off that flange or the lip and was able to get the boot on, barely. IAC off of the old truck throttle body went on okay. I didn't have to slot the holes or anything. I ended up switching the throttle cable plate over to the one that comes in the kit, but this one is the same shape as what is on the OEM throttle body. Once I put this lever on, I was able to reuse the cable that I already had on there. We have not tried to fire it up yet. We've been trying to get the TPS sensor voltage correct. The way the adjustment plate was out of the box, I had it maxed out up against the end of the slots, and we were at 1 volt and we couldn't get it any lower than that. It needs to be down around 0.5, 0.45 volts. So what I did, and this is very crude, I used my Dremel and I put another 1/10 of an inch or so into the adjustment slots on the adapter plates so that I can roll this over as far as possible. Also slotted the TPS sensor holes so this can roll this way a little bit more. And I think combining those two modifications, you can see how that is now got more room. I do believe that we're going to get our voltage where we need it, and then we will go ahead and start it up. I gotta eat some lunch first, and then we'll get right back after it. I'll report back if our TPS sensor voltage is correct. Alright, we're on our crappier GoPro. Actually, I shouldn't say that. It's just an older GoPro. Just loaded up another tune with the adjustment with the idle airflow desired. And now we're just going to go on a little data logging mission for, we're going to use a histogram that is short-term trims for mass airflow on a math only tune. You can see we got our mass airflow frequency, and it's just going to reference off of the, in this case, short-term trims, because we've already got a decent baseline that was done with the wideband. So now we're just kind of fine tuning it, and any little minor changes from that throttle body should be corrected. Connect to vehicle. We are connected. I always like to go in. This isn't probably necessary, I don't know. But I always go in and reset the trims every single time, even though the long-term trims are turned off, and we should be ready. We're not going to start logging right away. We're actually going to start driving a little bit, get our temperature stabilized, and then we'll start the log. Must have went off the end of the road. Ratio's looking pretty good as is. All right, in conclusion, I've got about 20 miles on the new throttle body. Seems to be doing everything that it's supposed to be doing. The IAC has good control, doesn't do anything stupid, and we're not getting any weird noises or anything. So far I'm cautiously optimistic, and we're in that state of we just need to put some miles on it, prove ultimate reliability. I'm going to drive it like 80 miles tomorrow. And and also watching on the data logs, the TPS sensor is very repeatable and seems to also be doing what it's supposed to be doing. You going? I did several MAF versus short trim data logs today and adjustments to the MAF table. Very, very minimal. So at least on a cable throttle body LS, changing the throttle body size doesn't seem to be hugely detrimental to the tune, at least on this power level, which is probably little less than 400 wheel. But I got another tune loaded up into it, so it's always best to go test out that tune. I'm not even going to data log it. I'm that confident in it. I can see the short-term trims on my little mini dash. So that's kind of cool. So I think so far for 80 bucks, it's a worthy gamble to try the Professional Products new throttle body. Now, I will say, if you're not mechanically inclined or willing to modify things to make it work, don't even bother. You're just going to end up mad if you buy this throttle body. So keep that in mind. But yeah, if you have any questions, put them down in the comments below. And aside from that, let's just go on a little putt and listen to some racket. Starts right up perfectly. Down at the bottom of this hill, there's a huge bump that you can jump. Catch a glimpse of it from the outside one of these days, but probably attracts a little bit too much attention standing there on the side of the road with a camera. This thing has a Transgo shift kit in it. Sometimes, depending on the engine load, it'll chirp the tires on the 1-2 shift. Just bust them loose.